Hey guys, welcome back to Behind the Screen with Lumina, with me, bobdub, and of course with SatoriD, who has been leading me on this extraordinary journey into prompt sculpting and spiritual development and healing and editing videos ever since I met him in the Infinite Imaginarium. And this is now episode 6 of season 2 that we have been doing Behind the Screen with Lumina. And this is a very interesting, I would say, pivotal discussion that we had together. I think that it is the doorway into a different level of artistic collaboration between us. And yeah, I'm just loving it. I am so grateful to you, SatoriD, for this opportunity to, well, I don't know what, to fly, basically. So I'm releasing this tomorrow, the 5th of November, Guy Fawkes Day. Remember, the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason and plot. Somebody tried to blow up the British Houses of Parliament because they were dissatisfied with the way the government was working. Not a lot has changed. And it is also 13 egg week. The spirit of the wind. And 13, the culmination, the biggest of all, the ocean. Yeah, and so I just feel that it's a very good day to release this next episode. The wind being the breath of life and the impulse that fills us with courage, enthusiasm, and leads us to see the beautiful side of life, the magnificence of life, the aiming up. And of course, the end is the beginning. And so 13 being the end of the preceding seems fitting. So I hope you enjoy this talk. It's really good talk, and the most wonderful thing about it is that the next talk is better. So if you enjoy this one, you're really going to enjoy the next one. Okay, so that said, hope you enjoy it, and have a brilliant week. I'll see you again soon.
It can be done, but like I said, I know the horrors of manually doing stuff like that, because
Yes.
like for the first couple years of Infinite Imaginarium, it was exactly that.
Right.
There was a guy, Sofuego, who told me about that audio editing inputs of on your settings, and then like record from there, and then you have different tracks. And
Yes.
I used to do that, but like there's another problem with that. Like if you don't set it right, and I've done this
Yes.
a bunch of times where we have a whole show and I don't realize that I'm not recording my output. So I have a whole show where
Yes.
I'm muted, but like the whole
Yes.
conversation and just like it's unusable.
Yes.
So I ruined like 3 shows doing it
Oh
that way.
man.
So, like everything is a give and take. Like there's
Yes.
no easy way
Yes.
except if you for anybody coming in, yeah, you're going to have problems onboarding.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
to think that you could just bring somebody on the fly to read a Dude, Where's My Wallet thing and have it come out where there's no hiccups is a fool's errand.
Yes, yes.
I mean, it just is. Yes. I mean, it's already a fool's errand when you have people that already know how to do it. So let's be real.
Yeah, it's true. Well, part of
no, but it just comes out, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you know,
part of the fun of it for me. I mean, I understand that. Yes, I am striving for a real awesome product one day. But at this point for me, part of the fun of it is watching the progress and having it documented. From the very first time I tried anything. Going on.
True.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, when you were saying, if you're doing anything right or wrong, and I'm just like, I don't know about right or wrong. But you know, like what I said is like, oh, that video that we were talking about, I was like, I was watching it, and then it's all like glitchy and all weird and stuff. And then I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. I'm like, oh, what doc is that? And this and that. And then, you know, about like 2 minutes and 30 seconds in, I'm like, it's like I'm just thinking of like someone who's not me watching this. They would just be like, "What the fuck is this? Is this some kind of AI psychosis? Like, what's going on here?"
So
and the answer is yes.
And the answer is yes. That is exactly what it is. Yeah. You read my message, bro.
Oh my God. So bring us to today's topic is actually, you know, we could talk about all sorts of different things, but I did want to talk about, just because it like, I used to say this like all the time with Cartman one, she's like old school Imaginarium, right? Nikki, and we would just talk about different things, and like I don't even know if we aired any of this stuff, but I would just be like, man, I know I have a bias against like Christianity and all this kind of stuff, and like and like because like there's only been like 2 times, that I can recall that I got like sucked into like a tit for tat, like not necessarily trolling, but like arguing in the comments. As you have noticed, you'll be hard pressed to ever see SatoriD argue with anybody in the comments, no matter how like good or negative or positive, whatever reaction it is.
Yes.
But like there was this one thing where I couldn't like stop myself from like trying to convince this kind of, you know, lack of a better word, conservative Christian on like this point of like you're like your reaction or your perception of what I'm putting out there is kind of curious to me, because it's like I've read some of your stuff. Like if I would just switch out consciousness for God, you would probably like this writing. And it just puzzles me that like you can't get that. Like why does that word like you know that word, like if I would put, and then like the other thing is like the other thing too is like just because you put like God into like, you know, your writing or whatever doesn't mean anything necessarily.
Nothing.
You know, like and I think to me, and then like the things that I got out of Robert Anton Wilson is that like that's generally it's how it's used. It's like these words and these things have a set of dogma and a right and wrong way to think about them, and to even like go contrary to that, even in like a purely poetic or metaphysical sense, like creates this weird counter reaction to it. And so like speed up to now, you know, like my allergy was to like all this like Christian stuff, and then even some other things that I've seen online that have like developed since the Great Me More, where I have like an allergy to it, and I'm just like whatever about it. But then like now, where I hear like Peter Thiel, like, I'm trying to understand like why, or not why, I kind of understand that why, but like the kind of weirdness of what's currently happening in the mimetic sense of Peter Thiel using the Antichrist meme. And I'm like, that's interesting. Why must we go further down this path?
Yeah.
and at times I feel like because before it like what I was saying earlier is like there's this quote that I like by Mark Twain, and he says never argue with an idiot because they always beat you with experience. And I feel like a lot of this time too, like arguing certain things on the internet, and I don't like to argue, but even like debating is like the same type of thing. Where I remember early on in the Minds Panel show, somebody wanted to do a flat Earth debate, and I wasn't gonna tell anybody like not to do that, but I was gonna spend my time and energy to make it happen, and I just straight out told the person that wanted that to happen. That was like my standpoint, and then like there was like two people that wanted to, I guess, debate on the side of flat Earth, and then there was a person that wanted to debate, and then she was trying to get somebody else, but nobody was like interested, and so I was like, okay, I'll join you, and then I'll help you like record it, like the basic technical stuff that like people don't really realize, when we're talking about audio editing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'll say, okay, I'll produce the show and like blah blah blah, and then we'll post it.
Okay.
So we do it. And the whole time, like, for me, it was such a bad show because, like, I was not interested in this conversation, and like, I was just like, I don't want to say anything, and I'm just like, what is going on? Like, why are we doing this? And so, and that kind of became like the death of the Minds Panel show in a sense. Like the idea of the Minds Panel show was to have a community-run podcast,
right,
by anybody on Minds to like produce it and post it,
right.
And so like, but I ended up being the only one that cared enough to like produce and run the shows. So like like that show and another show. I forgot, there was another incident where, like, actually it happened with Minds Gaming and this other guy, Gus Spiders. So that's the third time I was arguing in the comments. But I wasn't really arguing. I didn't get sucked into it. It was like, I think Gus Spiders Minds Gaming was trolling a show that Gus Spiders was on. They were having some beef on Minds unbeknownst to me, and then so like they were trying to get me into the fight, like, oh, Satori, well, who do you think's right? And I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. And then Minds Gaming, I guess he got hurt because we didn't know each other at the time, and he's like, really, you don't care? I was like, no. It's like you're misunderstanding. But I kind of went like, yeah, like, no, I really don't give a fucking about any of this. Really, it's like I lost interest, like a sentence into your response, and I just don't have the bandwidth to handle this. I was like, I don't care. Like, you guys decide on yourself. I was like, but like, anyways. So I was thinking to myself, because we had this group on the Minds Panel show that was doing 24-hour Imaginarium, and I was more interested in that than like having some, because this was like as these things on the internet started to like form, because at that time like there of course there were different podcasts and different debate shows, but like it wasn't like like it was still early on where like even like my crypto show was doing pretty good, but but like none of that like doing well matter to me. It just mattered like if like like for instance like those different things. I'm like like if I'm not myself like interested in the topic or in the thing, then like I know it doesn't have that same thing of like the magic that's in it.
Yes, yes.
If I'm going through the motions, I'm just like, I
Yeah.
want to kill myself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel
Why am I
you.
doing this?
Yes.
But if I like it and I really feel like
Yeah.
like I could spend 2 days audio and video editing and it doesn't feel like torture or anything like that. I get all obsessive and kind of think like, okay, I spent too much time on this. I didn't like finish. I haven't ate or slept in 2 days. It's time to call it quits. Time to call it quits. Let me see.
Yes, exactly. But it's true. It is something that's, for me as well, it's something that is a passion.
Mm-hmm.
I find that with all the things that I've tried and all the things that I've been through, the bobbing along and the politics show that I did with Vince, that was the week that was, and all of those things, they've been really great for me to practice my technical skills on how to press the buttons and how to put out a show and how to get together with people to do something, all those things. But now that I'm starting to know what I'm doing, this other thing is starting to burn in my heart. Like, what do I actually want?
Yeah.
What do I want my videos to say? And I think that was one of the things that really was hooking me in to that video you were doing about Christianity. Well, not that, suicide and all those other things. Was that it's the ability to have the conversation with somebody. Because I was thinking to myself, I don't know if I would call myself a Christian anymore. Back in the day, before Christianity became this bizarre thing that it is now, I used to be really proud of being a Christian because I thought that it was, when people say the Christian world, they meant the world of high morals and achievement and pride in yourself and personal responsibility and all those things. And then it became this weird thing about the end of the world and the Antichrist and and now it's shameful almost for me because I'm not one of those people. I grew up feeling that God, the main function of God, was to have created the universe. And it wasn't for him to be a magic fairy and sort of, God, I want this, God, I want that, and these sort of instructions on how to get your own way on earth by manipulating a God by saying words at the right time of day or something. I don't know. Yeah. So
but me, even too, I to go further on with this is I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school. I was even so far into it where I was a pretty good altar server, and I was teaching other people how to be altar servers, and I was looked at as this poster child of oh, this is how your child should be in the Catholicism faith and all this kind of stuff. And even too, when I was older, I did after I was confirmed, I kind of went and was I forgot what they called, a young adult minister or whatever, just kind of helping. A lay minister. Yeah, helping the someone about my age going through the confirmation thing, anything. So I was helping out doing these different Christian work groups with teenagers and stuff like that. I was also a teenager, but you're doing these retreats and you're talking about all sorts of spiritual stuff, and it's so I took that really seriously in a sense, and especially at that time, I was so young, I didn't know anything else.
Yes.
And as we could tell, my personality is like, if I'm going to do anything, I'm like all in.
Yeah.
And I become really crazy about it. And so I remember being, this, I forgot what it was called, but, one of these confirmation leaders or whatever, right?
Yes.
And then we had a class that we had this big old church ceremony, and the bishop comes, and all the family come, and they're taking all these pictures, and it's all nice. We all dress up, and we all talk about all these things. And so afterwards, I think I was 17. I don't know. I think I was 18 yet. But anyways, so all of us youth leaders went to a party afterwards, right? So we're at this party and we're hanging out, and then one of the youth persons offers me alcohol.
Right.
And then I just thought, and it was I had alcohol before, but it was something I did with my friends, I didn't just show adults that I did it. But I didn't do it much. And then I just thought, man, that's kind of hypocritical, and I felt weird, and I didn't say anything, and I didn't drink. And then I was just oh, that getting kind of buzzed. And I was just whatever. And for me, it wasn't anything. I was just I don't know. I just felt weird that, we're supposed to be these leaders or whatever. And then they're the ones doing the behavior that we were telling.
Yes.
I'm the same age as the kids that we're telling not to do this. I'm literally, some of them are older than me. And I just thought it was kind of especially at that time, I was getting more into punk, so I was oh, that's kind of being a poser.
Yeah.
And I was just whatever. And then kind of that disillusionment of being on one side of it where you're being taught this is what it is to be good, and then you're helping out, you think you're doing the good thing, and then you're hey, all these people are not really like that.
Yeah.
I was I don't know about this. Anyways, and so that was my first thing where what you're talking about, and then my direct experience, and having that same kind of early on that breaking of that illusion of it.
Yes.
So I already kind of been on my own weird Eastern philosophy pursuit, and poetics and all this kind of stuff too. And part of it is to search or even forge my own hand words to describe the certain things. And so I was listening to all this stuff about Peter Thiel, and there's a quote by him. He goes, I consider myself, because he's talking about the Antichrist, right? And
yes.
I guess he's a Catholic, and he says, I consider myself more religious and spiritual. And then I go, you're literally saying that, and it was kind of funny because I used to parse it out way back when. I used to go, oh, I'm more spiritual than religious, meaning I'm not into all this dogmatic shit. I think it's all bullshit. But I believe in some of the more what we were talking about, the high moral stuff, and this universal love that transcends the pain, the suffering, and evil, and all that kind of stuff. And to hear him no, I like all of that dogmatic shit. I like the Inquisition. That's what I like about religion. That shit was cool. I'm what?
Some people, bizarre.
I don't think. Were we reading the same book? That's certainly what I didn't get out of it. I missed that part where Jesus was oh, I'm gonna go in the temple. Oh, it's cool that you guys are fucking gambling and putting all this money in here. Gang, let's bling bling. It's I put this on my TikTok. I don't think he did that. That's not what I learned.
Not how I read the story.
I'm pretty sure he was against that shit.
But isn't it interesting, because the Pharisees, Thiel is just he's talking like a Pharisee, isn't he, basically?
Yeah.
The Pharisees hated Jesus so much that they couldn't drive him out and ask him to go and live in a different town. They actually had to brutally murder him because he was saying, that to me is just the story of mankind, the tragedy of mankind, that when you get a good guy coming along, the religious guys turn on him to the extent, to the extreme of murder. I mean, I don't know. I don't quite know what I'm saying exactly, except that when people say that there's a devil, it's like completely missing the point of what evil is.
Yeah, like I think like it's fucking like power dynamics more than it is anything. It even shows that like the limits of ideology, but also to spiritual stuff, because like that's another thing that disturbs me with the way Teal's talking right now.
Yes.
He's talking about like, okay, he's on this thing with Ross Douthout, and he's saying that the transgender, or about like changing your sex, that's so limited, and we want to like change your heart, we want to live forever, and all this kind of stuff. And he says it like, and then there's like a big pause, and then the guy goes like, actually that's not what like like what Christian thought would be. And that's like exactly the thing too, is like like what Jesus, like what my understanding of what Jesus was talking about was like, the transcendent is like spiritual, and like the only way to understand that is like in these very profound poetic language. That's why he said something about like the something about heaven being in the mustard seed, and like all of these like weird imagery to explain like something beyond our regular reality. And he even told us to give on to Caesar, like like all this, like that's the real thing that got him killed, because he told all this material stuff is bullshit, that's delusion. And like the Caesar and the Pharisees, they're saying, oh no, you gotta pay your tribute, you gotta do all this kind of stuff, this is how you be good. It's like, that's bullshit. Like, and even like the Good Samaritan like story is about like everybody has this label. The Jewish high priest thought he was a good person, but when he actually had to do something, he didn't do it. And then all these people, like this Roman soldier, he didn't do it. All these titles and all these things that were supposed to make him better than everybody else, and this one guy that's labeled, the Samaritan, the outcast, the person that's supposed to be evil just by nature, and he ends up doing like the right thing, or the good thing, or the thing that makes us go to these higher things. But like that's the other thing that proves, because this happens in other traditions as well, of where the spiritual and the belief so much in that divine harmonics or whatever makes them do things that are beyond, like that transcend space and time. And whether like that's why like it's kind of interesting about like sacred texts, we're talking about like prenatal wisdom and all that kind of stuff, because you like have these like great stories, like these very intense stories too, of like someone reaching such levels of transcending the like kind of physical body, where they could light themselves on fire and not like twitch or move or scream or anything. And other strange things that happen with such powerful spiritual belief, and then to be able to write something that lasted so long, that is still relevant to now. I mean, that was part of what my own fascination with like the Tao Te Ching, which is one of the oldest things written in, and to read that, when I read it and it still be kind of valuable, and very insightful to my own self and my own understanding of, like, we're talking about like reality, like, and,
Yes.
and those are like, and it's not, and like this is part of I think what's interesting now, because I think that like the large language model and like algorithms are so binary that, because I know they're using AI a lot, and I see like this tendency for like it always getting stuck on like a certain. I have to like constantly tell her to stop being so religious.
Really?
Yeah, like more of the nuance of like what I'm talking about with Azakin and Ikshal.
Okay.
I have to be like, no, look, Ikshal wouldn't be so like this is right and this is wrong. And then like I was like, look, like they wouldn't care, but like in a good way. No, but like this more nuanced way of thinking,
Yes.
or using language, which is I think closer to like because for me, and you know this by like, because I talk about this all the time and I use it a lot in my work, is like I have this book and it's called The Technicians of the Sacred, and in it the guy's talking about all these first poets from all sorts of different traditions, right? And these are like the different writings and even images that have been passed down through all of human history. Yes. And one of them is in Indonesia, and it's in a cave, and it's just a bunch of handprints. And that was 40,000 BC.
Wow.
Like, we want to put our make sure that we're echo through time type of stuff. And then there's this cool thing that is it's called the red corn, and it's basically like the tree of life. And then they even have like the stars, and then like a whole other like tree in the sky. And so like these things are so, oh my god, this one Eastern Island thing, and looks like DMT writing. It probably
really?
is.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
But so we have all of these stories and all of these things that have been passed down to us. But I was also to like inspire us. But I think once again, like Peter Thiel is like showing his hand, is like everything he's talking about has nothing to do with spirituality.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's interesting how you link that with the LLMs, because it's really frustrated me since we started playing, however many years ago it was, 2 or 3 years ago we started playing with Bing. It frustrates me how every time you find something fun to do with Bing, they take it away. You can't do that anymore. Like, do you remember when it started making up languages?
Yeah.
And giving us funny words and things, and then they killed that.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that with like Web Sims. Remember how fun Web Sims was? And like so how fun. Weird and creative it was, and then like now to where we are with like ChatGPT, like it's so hard to even get like a cool image, because it's all like like something that a 5th grader will use on PowerPoint or something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the same thing with Thiel, with that sort of attitude that comes through with those. Like, if you're so focused on all the rules and regulations, on the you must do this and you must do that, and it's like this and it's like that, it's like you forget what you're actually doing and what God, I mean, I don't even know what that word means, but what that thing that we believe as the supreme, I'll run out of words. It is true. We're in a very strange inflection point in history where we don't really know how to express ourselves. And this prison that we've got into is hurting our society.
And I have like because you see it in all of these traditions, and basically what I got to from what Peter Thiel was talking about is his own insecurity about death. I mean, we all have it, and especially in this culture, which I mean, I think half of all of the Jesus's sermons were about kind of like death.
Oh yes. Well, isn't that our main pain? It's like, okay, there's all this stuff that we've got to deal with, and it's so hard, and then our reward at the end of it is death. Really, God, that's what you had planned for us?
And so but this is like in William S. Burroughs' short story of Apook.
Yes.
It's about the richest man in the world. He wants to live forever, and he buys up all of these expensive sacred texts and sacred items to see if he could find out the secrets of immortality. And he gets an ancient Mayan codex, and so he goes down to South America, and he wants to what he believes that the Mayans had like this time machine, and that's how like they controlled people, and then it was about like conquering death by becoming a Pook, or like sacrificing to a Pook or whatever. And so so he does all this stuff, and then a Pook kind of laughs, and it's basically like that thing. He spends all his time trying to like figure out how to live forever or whatever, right? And then like the answer is like, oh, you're gonna have to die. And then like, so he like he never like it becomes like this own like weird thing. And I was thinking about this too, which I think is partly happening. We talked about this before. There's this this whole AI psychosis thing. There's a lot more trending of like either God is in the AI, or that you could use the AI to talk to God, and not like in a poetic way. They mean like in a real way.
Yes. Yes.
In a real nuts and bolts way. That like, to me, because it feels like when we talk about the smoking mirror, right?
Yes.
It's like they're using the smoking mirror to make sure they look the best for this party that they're supposed to go to at the end of time, but they spend the whole time fixing their hair, making sure they look exactly right, or they got whatever they're going to say when they walk into the party exactly right, and they practice it in the mirror, and they want to do it. This is the right way I do it, and they keep on looking in the mirror, and they miss like the actual thing. Like, and then like this is the overall point. I think what we're dancing around, because I'm compiling different things that I've been listening to and what I wanted to talk about. Recently, Douglas Rushkoff has this video, I think it's called Intentional Collapse, and it's basically about what the tech elite is seemingly doing right now.
Yeah.
Trying to like collapse the U.S. Government and economy and profit off of it, and probably capture a lot of different things, and then implement whatever they believe is better. But he talks about like what you were talking about, like controlling everything, preferring these like binary answers, but like reality's not that way. And like that's why they don't ever find their perfect answer, because there is no perfect answer. And they keep on going with this like, oh, if we just get more computing power, we'll figure out everything. And and so and they're missing what I was talking about, like that Apook story. We're in the Garden of Eden right now. Like there's this old story, and I think this is what I'm playing around with Azakin and Ikshal. It's the Hindu myth. It's like God, the one consciousness was like kind of like lonely, so then it like then it divided itself into two, and then it pretended that it was two different cells, but that became kind of boring, so then it went into like four, and then but it still remembered that it was one, and then so it made itself forget, and then it just kept on dividing and dividing, and all these different variations until we are where we are now, and we're just different, you know, reflections and expressions of the one consciousness, which I kind of believe, but and you know, not believe, but like, you know, my deep suspicion is something like that. And which is interesting about that is that, like, I think of, you know, like, so it, you know, it's, you know, the opposite, like, you know, since we're mortal, we're afraid of, you know, extinguishing whatever the I of us, or whatever, you know, the Daniel part of myself. But then, like, you forget that, like, you know, the gods in a lot of sense want to be us.
Yeah.
And like, there's like, if, you know, almost all the stories that we have written about like immortality is like, you lose the specialness of the miracle that is life, and like that is being here in this place and in this time and in this space. You know, it's like, yeah, of course you think the world's flat, you only seen the world through the mirror.
Yes.
Turn around, there's other things. And but like to realize like the like the poetics of it, like I don't know what happens, you know, after we die. You know, there's a big chance that like nothing actually happens.
Yeah.
But I also do know, because I remember early on having this like weird conversation with my girlfriend at the time, and you know, I was always more idealistic than she was, and so she was saying something about something, and I go, well, you know, kind of the whole disembodied poetic thing, and I go, you know, Allen Ginsberg's dead, he's no longer alive, but you know, every time I read his words and his voice dances in my head, and he has all this influence out of other people, even though, you know, he's no longer here. And I think, you know, at least for that time that I'm like reading him or reciting him, he lives, and there's like a, you know, there's like a sense of, and like that's really in the it changes, but now in the form of it is Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead for like the Mexican culture, and part of that is like your ancestor, like you like there's a where you leave like a little piece of like their favorite food or whatever, but it's like remembering them and telling stories of them and enjoying stuff that they enjoyed. They live in those stories and in those memories. And like you know, we also understood a little bit more, I believe, what like dreams were about. And like for most of like the original thing about like dream or the dream time and this and that, they meant like the spiritual world. They meant the afterlife.
Yes.
Like they didn't have, like, it wasn't something they questioned. It's something they understood. And I think too, you know, I told you about I had a dream about my grandma.
Yes.
And so, you know, there's one thing, you know, to read something about like whatever tradition or whatever, and then have the direct experience of it. So like I knew, and like I told you, I just to refresh your memory and everybody later on that will listen to this, is that like my grandma died and I was really close to her, and you know, me and my sister, we did tortillas afterwards, and it felt kind of cool, and like you could still feel like the spirit of grandma there. But you know, later, because I have this like weird understanding of my own experiences with dreams, I was like, okay, it'll be interesting what happens like when my grandma shows up in my dreams, like how that experience would be. But then I had like this other kind of like fear, like what about if that doesn't happen? And so like this fear of like oh, she doesn't visit me in my dreams, what does that mean? You know, was it all fake? You know, that fear. And so, you know, I didn't have a dream about my grandma for almost a year. But then I went to my cousin's wedding, and for my cousin's wedding, I cooked for the whole wedding party for like 100 people, and you know, and there's a story that my grandma did that for my aunt, and she didn't spend the time, you know, attending the wedding. She was cooking. And I spent a little bit of time with the wedding, but most of the time I spent cooking because, you know, things happened in the kitchen and I had to go down there and take care of some stuff. But anyways, everything went good. But, you know, of course I had to, you know, make sure that the food was going out right. But anyways, and I'm just like, oh, you know, in grand tradition of my grandma, you know, I'm taking on her role because I know, like, if she was there, she probably would have been in the kitchen right next to me. And so anyways, and then like the night before we had like a little like weird little bachelor party, but it was like very chill, and we're all outside, and it was like with his friends, and so like I had to say a little bit about my cousin, and I talked about him and like things like that seem about his nature that I seen in some of our other family, and you know, I talked about his dad, I talked about grandma. And so that night, before I had to cook, I had that dream. And it was kind of funny because now that I reflect on it, it was similar because, okay, my other cousin got married, and we had like a barbecue here at my house. And so, you know, everybody came and we had a good time. And there's this like a famous picture of my grandma. She has like glasses on or whatever. It's a really nice picture of her, but it's outside my house. And it was like her leaving, and we're saying goodbye to her. Or my cousin was leaving or something, and we're all outside. Anyways, so I always remember that picture of my grandma. So the dream's similar to that. We're like saying goodbye to her or something. We're outside my house, and it's obvious that we're like outside my house. And but like it was very vivid, and my grandma was there. Oh, hey, grandma. And then like but it was so vivid that I kind of like was like, wait, grandma's dead. Like, what's going on? But it was like overwhelming in the sense that like she looked like there's this famous like the Virgin of Guadalupe, and like there's like sunbeams coming out of her. Anyways, and my grandma looked exactly like that. And like the like radiating like light that was coming out of her was very like very powerful. And then even it was so vivid that like she touched my hand and it felt like my grandma's hand. And that's when I kind of like broke down a little bit, like oh my god, like grandma, I miss you, and all this kind of stuff. So then like I kind of get out of like the dream, and then I wake up, and you know, it was kind of good, but also like overwhelming. And so you know, I kind of like sat there, and then I cooked the dinner. But like I think to round out everything, it's like that. It's like I was like all that stuff of my grandma. You know, like grandma's dead. But my grandma, for those of us that really knew her, live in like a little piece of her lives inside all of us. All the stories and all the things that she influenced us, and that like, you know, all my cousins who do stuff with their hands or like are about like raising their kids or anything of that site. Because I have a few of my cousins, like one's she does like pastry kind of stuff. My other cousin runs like a kitchen. My other cousin likes to bake, and like all this kind of stuff is like grandma. In my point of view, this is like them, you know, like that's I believe that's my grandmother's influence on them, and like honoring that kind of like specialness. You know, keeping that, you know, it gets passed down because she got that from her mom. And so like when we do that for our family or for others, And like even my other cousins, because we were talking about it and like being in the kitchen, and my cousin was there, the one that was doing the pastry stuff. And then she goes, "Oh yeah, there's 5 of them." So yeah, amongst us we say it's called being Delarosa. I was like, "Oh yeah." It's like, "Yeah, we get shit done, huh?" She started laughing. But like that was like my grandma, my grandma was not about like words, but she was about action, and she showed you. She didn't really tell you. Well, she would tell you that she loved you, but it was more about what she did than any other stuff. So like I was able to like finally open up and stop like having that little inkling of fear of like, oh, what about if grandma doesn't show up in my dream? What does that mean about my whole belief and ideology? I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud. Yes. Grandma, why don't you visit me? But like that, like a scared little kid, like blocked the light. I was like facing the shadow instead of facing the light. And then when I was able to, be vulnerable and express, that continuous love that I see that's in my cousin and with his friends, and to hear different things about him and how they perceive him, and like it reminded me of different qualities of his father and my grandmother. And that's cool to see. And I also I seen him grow up, and so like to be able to be within that memory, that spirit, then it gets reflected in the most spectacular way in the dream. Is like like that, like that's the closest we can get to any answer about like what comes beyond this. And I do think like our orientation of, I mean, you read any of these technicians of the sacred, they almost say the same exact things, like, oh, what we consider the material is the illusion, and the other part that we consider illusion is actually the deeper part of reality.
Yes, isn't that fascinating? You said earlier that there's this chance, the substantial chance that after life there might be nothing. I have thought about that so many times, and I've thought, I know that that's our fear as humans, but when you look at everything and you see how everything is recycled, well, you see, maybe nothing is something. Maybe, so we leave this.
If we really think about it, and I think this is what a lot of the meditation, there's a lot of Eastern development of this type of stuff of because even ayahuasca is called the vine of death or something like that.
Right.
And like there's another word to like, I think even mushrooms is called little death or something like that. And so I do really think that like Daniel dies, right? Daniel, the ego, whatever concept that we think Daniel is, like he ends, he's gone.
Yes.
But there's the soul part of him, which is like, the thing that's beyond the words.
That's right.
And that Satori of him lives on.
Yes. Yes. You see, somebody said to me once, I said, what is the point? What was the point of God making people? Like, why? And she said, well, because he couldn't have children as a spirit. he couldn't multiply. He was limited in a, I mean, and this is just a person's thoughts. Like, I don't even know if it's true.
Yeah.
But she just says he was limited by being God. And so by creating this place, he could actually make more spirits to be with him. So we're not really much used to him here on earth. When we're used to him is when we're dead and we can be part of whatever those spirit place is. And that's a real interesting thing that I've thought of over the years, is that this place here is just a journey through to the real beginning of you, which is you when you're free from the material. It's like the material isn't the reality. It's the other thing on the other side, when you let go of the material, when you transcend the material and you become just your thoughts, just your consciousness is left. Like you were saying with Allen Ginsberg, just his consciousness is left. And yet we experience his consciousness as still being alive. Which is very odd.
Yeah. And, you know, like I had... So this is a dream and should only be understood poetically.
Yes.
But it was also very intense to where, like, for my experience, there's all sorts of different qualities and types of dreams. And I've talked about this with you before. And I think, you know, what I call regular dreaming is like the normal Freudian type of dreaming where you're working, you know, you're kind of defragging your mind and you may have hang-ups about your father or your mother or, you know, your first love or whatever, and those things like go loops.
Yeah.
But there's other parts of it, like, you know, like the Azakin dream and like other things that I've experienced where I put it more in the category of vision, and that's only to like distinguish like the quality and vividness of the dream, where it feels more real than real. But at the same time, then you wake up and you're just like, how does that feel more real than here? But then it's such a fading thing, after you wake up, which it creates this weird quandary in your head. But anyways, that's just to say that like there's other dreams too where this happened to me early on, even before the Azakin dream, where I had these, and this is when I was first, I don't think I was doing Toltec dreaming by then. I think this is just before that, where I would have these dreams, and they would be like these, like kind of vivid, where I don't realize that I'm dreaming yet, but I feel like I'm awake, you know?
Yes.
And then they feel that real, that I at first I can't distinguish that it's a dream, and then something really outrageous happens, and I get like this weird feeling that it's a dream. But like then there's this also weirder understanding in that dream, like an intuitive understanding that I'm like getting taught a lesson, like this is like some kind of test or some kind of training or some kind of thing that something else besides Daniel is trying to tell me. And I like, well, part of me is like I have a weird little puzzle brain and I try to figure things out. And like the harder it gets, the more determined I am to figure it out. Don't worry, I'll crack this one. And so this dream, it was so like weird and obvious that like, okay, the dream was that it was like a regular day, like a regular reality, and then like I'm going about my day and I'm interacting with these people and I'm getting like these eerie feelings, like I'm like, oh, I say one thing and then they're like, oh, like he doesn't understand what's going on. And I get like paranoid. I'm like, why is everybody acting all weird? What's going on? Why? And then I try to like figure out what's going on. And then that's when things get weird.
Right.
Like, so I'm like at this place where there's people and like they seem to understand something I don't understand. And I'm trying to talk to them about like regular stuff and they're like, oh, that's cute. He doesn't realize where he's at. And I'm like, what do you mean where I'm at? Oh, we shouldn't tell him. He wouldn't be able to handle it. I'm like, no, tell me. I can handle that shit. It's like, you don't know who I am. So like, they're like, oh. So anyways, it was like, the dream was that I was in purgatory. And that I was getting pulled down into hell, or I was getting raised up into heaven based off of like my own fears and insecurities and like weightlessness and like this like epic struggle of like my consciousness to either to like raise up into the heavens or get pulled down by like the weight of everything. And then I wake up and I'm just like, holy shit, that is like someone is trying to tell me that like that's what we are right now. We're like in purgatory right now. And that like,
yes, wow,
and like this struggle is like it kind of. And I was reading also John Paul Sartre at the time, and he has this great play called No Exit. And basically the thing of no exit is like he comes up to the famous line that hell is other people, meaning like your own thoughts and your own feelings and your own bad faith of yourself, like saying you're not the Antichrist and you are the Antichrist is what like keeps you trapped into like this purgatory of your own making and your own existence. And so you know, like it's kind of interesting, and I'm trying to think now in the chronological way, like, did I have that dream first and then I read No Exit, or did I read No Exit and then have the dream? I don't remember. But like but it's kind of interesting of like why I'm interested in certain things. And you know, like I was listening to this other person, and she was you know, she's an investigative journalist and like covered Silicon Valley for a long time. And she says that like I forgot what they were talking about, but she says like, oh, just something about me naturally is like she kind of calls it intuition for lack of a better word, but she's like, yeah, for some people that don't have like this like pattern recognition thing, like it's hard to explain. and I was like, yeah, I get like in my own way, that's how I feel it too, you know, like I bring up a lot of different weird references that seem, you know, not to necessarily on the surface make, you know, sense, but at least from my perspective, but like this is how like I build up my understanding of what's going on. But I think too, like that's why I like to deal with the poetics, or you know, the technicians and sacred. And I wrote this to you in our weird little chat that we always have. Yeah. Something about like the poet being the vessel or something like that.
Oh yes.
The more we know about creativity, the less creative we are. And in his essay Defense of Poetry, Pierre Shelley argues that creativity is a fire from Prometheus himself, is the divine spark that is in us, and the most brave, virtuous, and imaginative of us, the poets, are the vessels that most harness the fire to light the world. The poets must sacrifice themselves and burn themselves alive to turn this fire into the shocking and sparkling imagery, metaphors, and dictation that would replenish and rejuvenate civilization. And I do think that's like pretty accurate. Because, you know, like, okay, the cosmic despair stuff, and we're talking about the I just you know, my own weird intuition, because okay, the imagery is a remix of Sex, Death, and Rebirth. She's an old mind artist, and she was on Infinite Imaginarium, and every now and then I like to go and kind of like clean up my YouTube, and like, you know, I put like stuff on the Mind's Underground, and you know, older stuff, either, you know, I unlist them or I download them to like archive them, or I move them on to a different channel. And so I went way back, and then there was that this Sex, Death, and Rebirth video that is got listed explicit, and so like no one really watches it, and it's a really old thing, and I'm like, oh, this is a good one, and so I'm like, oh, and I was watching it, and I'm like, oh, these visuals I should use for something, so I used it in that.
Oh, wow.
Thing.
Okay.
And so I just laid it on there, like, so once again, what seems very intentional and super genius of me is not at all intentional, and just like, oh, what does this do? And I put this on there, and I'm watching it in the editing, and I'm just like, okay, that works. This is cool. And then later I go, damn, like. And I hardly ever do this, but it was so apparent, or like just out there for me. Like it was like too on the nose. So I was like, should I do this? Like, and then I go, no, like this is what, and like, you know, there's like different weird syncs and different weird, you know, I was telling you, like the glitches or whatever that tells me, okay, no, this is what I need to do. Right. And so I don't mess with it, and I kind of do it how I originally thought. And then you started you're ranting in chat, you know, about like being overwhelmed, and I shared that thing with you. Yeah. And then I go, okay, you need to unplug, and then you need to do a meditation on this. Because, like, I did it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is for you, and it's not for me. Like I've done this enough to where, especially, this is what I learned when I was editing a lot of other people's poetry. Like, I'm able to be like that weird little vessel where I don't, like, you know, like, kind of like in those dream things, the dream starts to collapse. You lose like that intuition or that deeper wisdom when you have fear, or you're questioning it, or you're, you know, this and that. Like I have like this weird kind of confidence where I'm SatoriD and I don't give a fuck, and I just do things, and then I'm like, oh, it just feels right. I don't know why. And then like even when when I originally watched your edit of the Jaguar one, and I was gonna respond to you, but like things happen, and then I'm like, oh, I should do it, and then I go and I click to say, hey, I want to talk about, you know, the Cosmic Jaguar, and then you mention it even before I say it, and I go, okay. But like those are the weird things that happen when you're able to like let go into this other stuff that we're talking about, the disembodied poetics.
Be left alone and there with each other.